Hello, welcome to a Celtic State of Mind. Yes, you're not seeing things. Declan's in the hot seat now on a Tuesday. This is your new Tuesday lineup. Myself, Lawrence Conley, and Patrick McGill are going to be your Tuesday guests. Guys, how are you doing on this Tuesday afternoon?
Doing well, Declan. Doing well. Welcome to Tuesdays. Is this the Tuesday Young Team?
Tuesday Young Team. Yep, you're the odd one out, mate, unfortunately. But it's all right. We'll bring you down to life. I know you're young at heart. Patrick, how you doing?
Not bad. Looking forward to being a regular contributor to the ACSOM Tuesday Bulletin, and looking forward to you being the new Tuesday host as well.
Yep, Patrick has joined the cult. So we'll just get right into this because this morning Celtic's PLC annual results and the year ending June 30th are published. Ian Bankier said, to quote him, conditions have improved markedly. Patrick, I'm going to come to you first on this. In terms of the product on the pitch, from what we've seen at the start of the season, would you say that on the pitch conditions have improved markedly?
After having watched the team for about 8 weeks now, I don't think the squad is it's not much stronger and it's not much weaker than what it was last season. I think where we have improved is in the managerial department. I thought we'd improved in the boardroom with a new CEO and Dominic Mackay, but obviously he's vacated the building. But I would have liked us to have spent more in the summer, because I know other teams have had a poor start to the season, but so have we, and we need to start picking up serious points now, and I'm not sure that we've done enough, to be honest.
Lawrence, Patrick touches on spending more in the summer. We saw that there was a cost-cutting exercise in terms of operations. We're decreased by 7.6% to 74.4 million. That going from the previous 80.5 million. The player sales down dramatically, but that's obviously due to the fact that was the Tierney money that we'd seen, and included in this money is not the deals for Ayer, Edouard and Ryan Christie. What was your take on what was published this morning and what the club produced?
So, obviously, those players you mentioned would normally have been sold last year, along with Ncham, who we let go for free, who would normally, Porto put in a €14 million bid. But because the board decided to change the transfer strategy in pursuit of the 10, I suppose these accounts have suffered as a result of that. Arguably, we'd have got more for Eddie and Christie if they'd been sold earlier. So, although, turnover down, it's kind of worrying, 60 million, 23, 25 million pounds spend in the summer. But we have brought in transfer fees, and quite sizable ones. But if you're looking at a business model, we're going to have to sell again. Although we've got a few sell-on fees out there that we'll maybe capitalise on in the future. Musa, KT, Christie, Ayer and Eddie, depending on how they do. The team has improved. As a team, we've improved at home. Still pretty bad away from home. Manager seems to have a better philosophy going forward. As a squad, have we improved? As individuals, I would say we're weaker. We're down in numbers, and I don't think we've got anyone of the talent of Eddie up front or an Ayer at the back. So I think individually the squad is weaker, but they seem to be playing better as a team. And that's maybe just because we've got rid of the guys that don't want to be here, the guys that were promised they could leave when we get a good bid in, and obviously guys like Ncham, when we didn't live up to that, kind of downs tools, and we're left freeing him or paying his contract off instead of taking €14 million.
Yeah, I think it was 15 out in the summer and 12 in. I think if you look at the bench on Sunday, I know we've got injuries to players like Kyogo and Forrest, etc., but it is threadbare. And I think when you do look at midfield particularly, we're going to need to count in 3 players for a large part of this. Not this season, because we do hope that there's more coming in January, but again, Celtic's record in past January transfer windows has not been the best. Patrick, one of the lines in the report says, we achieved good value from the transfer out of a number of players, notably Christopher Ayer, Odsonne Edouard and Ryan Christie. Would you agree with Ian Bankier on that statement?
Considering the circumstances, yes. Just to go back to Lawrence's point, these are players that should have been sold last season. I don't understand how people can look at the Celtic board and think of these people as good businessmen, because we should have got vast more sums of money for these players last summer. Especially, I think at least 2 of them wanted to leave, you know. How that makes any sort of financial sense, any business sense, to keep players who don't want to be there and then sell them for a lower value 12 months later in pursuit of what is essentially 1 league title, even though we were all hoping for 10 in a row. It is just a league title at the end of the day. No, I disagree with Ian overall, because these players should have been sold more recently, like the summer of 2020, for more money. I think we done well with Aya getting, I think it was 13.5 million, possibly rising to 17.5. Edward, I think we done pretty well with 17.5 or 18.5. Christie and Cham, though, what happened with Cham, I'm not too sure. Why you would release a player like that when there's been bids in the past for so much? Why not try and tie him down in a new contract? I don't know. And then with Ryan Christie, considering they had about 5 months left in his deal, to get 2.5 million is pretty good, but it should have never got to that stage. And it's going to happen again, because there are players in the last year of their deal, and if we're not going to move them on this summer, which we haven't, we'll need to try and renew their contract, either to play them or to get a fee for them next summer.
There's not those big sell-on fees that we can probably see in the squad just now, and even what we've brought in at this moment in time, it doesn't look like there's going to be the big multi-million deals that we've pulled off for guys like Tierney and Edward. Stevens came in the comments and saying that had the board sold players last summer, would have went mental. Lawrence, would you agree with that sentiment, or is it all down to communication and how you get that across to people, that if you're in a position where you've got guys like, say, Odson Edward to speculate on this, it's saying, you know, he wants to move away, that the club do what they did like Aston Villa and had a clear communication strategy to the supporters and saying, we've tried our best here, but the player wants to move on, and we're happy to do that, and we will invest the money back into the squad, which is something that in this report Ian Bankier says that the club do.
Listen, I think, you know, there's a bit of truth in both. It's how you communicate it. Yeah, a lot of the fans would have been unhappy, but, you know, we had a strategy that was working, and then they changed it last summer, and then guess what? It didn't work that season. So, yeah, you know, if Eddie had been sold, we'd have went mental. But if we'd sold him for 30 million and bought a 15 million pound striker, it might have, you know, and another 7 million, it might have cushioned the blow. You know, if we'd sold him, and Ivan Toney was in the building, wasn't he? And we ended up paying the same amount of money for Albion Ayeti. So for whatever happened, the recruitment strategy didn't work last year. Yeah, we would have went mental, but what we would have reinvested between those 2 players, I think Aya, you know, there was chat about 30 million for him, 14 million euros for Cham. If we'd invested all that back in the team, we might not have had so many loan players that kind of went up to the job. Also, if you're investing in a team, it's assets you've got to sell. You've touched on it. Who's the next big asset that Celtic can sell if this is our model? Raising young players and sell them. You're looking, well, Kyogo's probably worth more than we paid for him. Who else? I think McGregor. And then you're looking through the team and going, well, not too sure where the big money would be coming from. So, a bit of truth, you know, and we've got to communicate better to the fans, or Celtic need to communicate better. And yeah, a lot of Celtic fans went crazy going, you can't sell Eddie, but I think that's kind of a bit of a knee-jerk reaction. You know, if they said, well, look, he's running his contract down, he doesn't want to be here, he's not going to be as effective on the park. We're going to get 30 million quid and we're going to invest the majority of that into these strikers or into the team. I think that would have definitely calmed a lot of fans' concerns.
Patrick, what's your take on that? Last summer, from what we've heard from Neil Lennon, there wasn't many bids came in for the players that we've actually spoken about. But after watching what Aston Villa did during the Grealish situation, what would you put it down to? Had Celtic sold some of their major assets last summer?
I think as long as you adequately replace them, because I think if a bid did come in for Eddie, it probably would have been in the region of 20 to 25 million. And if you're talking about getting Ivan Toney for 7 or 8 million, it's a question of how would they have actually performed under Neil Lennon, because he's quite clearly a good player, but under Neil Lennon last season, it doesn't really matter how good you were. It was an extremely poor team and just about everyone had a bad season. So there's not actually a lot the board can do about that. All they have to do is stick to the model of developing young players, selling them at the best possible time for the best possible price, and then trying to adequately replace them. What happened last summer? I mean, we spent 12 million on Barkas, Ayeti and Duffy, and Duffy has left. Ayeti has scored less than 10 goals, and Barkas just has disaster after disaster every time he comes into the team. So we failed last summer both in selling our assets and then trying to recruit players. So I think we're going over old ground a wee bit. All we need to do is look to the future. Hopefully, we've recouped money since the 30th of June when the accounts end. I think we've weathered the storm and we just need to get back on track and try and stick to the model that's worked so well the 9 previous years.
Yeah, part of that model is this, to quote, our strategy of balancing player development and player trading is fundamental to our self-sustaining business model. Lawrence, we all like to see players break through from the Celtic Youth Academy. It's something that we all like to see somebody like ourselves break into the team and wear the hoops. That probably touches on one of the subjects you can see in the tagline there, Bolingoli or Monty. We saw Bolingoli come out of the cold and Sunday as a surprise inclusion into the team. Firstly, to ask on that, what did you make of Bolingoli's appearance on Sunday at the Tony Macaroni Arena?
Was he any worse than the rest of the team? I suppose probably it's about. I don't know if that's praise or condemnation, but yeah, he's kind of not changed his mind that he's the future of Celtic and that he's got a long-term part to play. Maybe Spain would have taken a lot out of the team. Maybe that's why he's in, because we are so threadbare. He thought Monty needed a rest. So some of the guys saying, well, maybe Scales should have been in. Then but he's not been with the team as long. So I guess with Bolingoli, we're threadbare. Looks like Taylor's out for a couple of months. We're going to be alternating between him and Monty this season. Then we're going to need to get him up to speed. If he's a player we want to move on, I guess people want to see him playing and play so they can judge him. But yeah, I thought Monty, but maybe he was knackered after his exertions in midweek.
One of the comments coming in is saying, if Ange thinks Bolly is playable, I'm okay with that. Patrick, do you agree with that? We heard Liam Scales say that he prefers to play at centre back, so it doesn't look as if he's going to be the option at left back. And currently, obviously, Greg Taylor, who would appear to be the first choice, is out. We saw an Instagram post of him yesterday after surgery. Or would you prefer to see young Montgomery given the chance to break through?
I think with Scales at centre back and Taylor out for months, I think we'll probably see a mixture of the two of them because they are the only two options. I can't see us persisting with Jovanovic out of position at left back. I don't think that's clever, and I don't think that will work long term. Yeah, I think you've got to play players in their main position, their preferred position. We don't even know if left back is Montgomery's preferred position. I think he's better there. I think he goes forward really well for a left back. And I think over time we'll see how he fares defensively at left back. I think Clyde in February 2020 was Bolingoli's last start for Celtic.
Right.
So I think 17 months since his last start. I can understand why Lennon didn't play him after what happened last season because he'd lost all trust in that player. Maybe John Kennedy could have brought him back into the fold because, it's a new manager, new set of rules, fresh start. And certainly with Ange, it's a fresh start. He's not betrayed Ange, he's betrayed Lennon. So if Ange wants to give him another shot, then that's fair enough, especially with how thin in the ground the squad is. But I think we'll see the both of them over the coming months because I don't think Taylor will be back until probably January. And, that's just a guess. It could be longer, could be shorter. But I think we'll probably see a 50-50 split of who's going to be first choice left back.
Do you think there's possibly a temptation for Ange Postecoglou as well to put Bolingoli in the transfer window so that teams might have a look at him because his team that he went out to in Turkey last year, he started the season off playing Champions League football, of course, but I don't think they did too well in the Turkish league. So do you think there's probably a temptation there as well to put him in the shop window at this moment in time?
Well, we don't have many assets, so we're going to have to start, looking at players and thinking, well, if these guys maybe aren't fancied or they want to move on, we need to start playing them, start showing teams what they're actually worth, and then getting a good fee for them next summer. I don't think the manager will be playing Bolingoli 20, 30 times a season just in order for the board to make a few million quid off him in the summer. I think Ange will pick the team that he thinks is best to win the game. As for his performance at Livingston, I don't think he was particularly bad. I wouldn't say his performance was good either. He was probably one of the better players in the team, but it's hard to judge because it's a small pitch. It's an AstroTurf pitch. We lost the game. We didn't play well. I think if he starts against Raith Rovers, which I think he probably will, we'll see him then, and we'll see how good he is both defensively and attacking after not playing for Celtic for so long.
Yeah, we may well do see him feature against Raith Rovers on Thursday. Lawrence Paradise 63 has came in on the comments to say Raith Rovers is a game where you rest players, not Livingston. Do you think on Sunday that Ange Postecoglou was resting players, or do you just think the game came far too quickly after the game in Seville on Thursday evening?
So I think it could be the same thing, couldn't it? You're resting players because they're knackered, and that's because of when the game was in front of it. So that's rather than just resting them because they've played a lot of football. I think it was just the recovery time. But no, totally, Raith Rovers is a chance to try out other players, maybe try out two up top. I don't know. It seems that Ange wants to go 4-3-3 all the time, but it is a chance to try other things. So you never know. We might see Scales come in at centre back and Ball at left back. But it would be, if he wants a chance to try things or rest some players, it's definitely, you would think, against Raith at home. Raith seem to be pretty good at home. So he's touched on it himself. He said, we're going to need a big squad because of the way he plays football. So he's going to have to manage that squad. So hopefully we do see a few players that would be waiting to see more of in this game. Maybe the Greek boy gets a start up top. Let's see what he's got. Let's see what he's like. Or maybe it's him and a Yeti up top. But I'd definitely say, race a game that we can afford to take more chances in rather than. I mean, when was the last time we won away to Livy? It's always a tough place for us to go. So, yeah, it wasn't a game you'd want to be taking chances in.
I think the last time we won against Livingston was 2006, and I think, if I'm correct, Derek Riordan scored a brace and Jan Vennegoor Hesselink chipped in with the other goal. The game in Livingston, Patrick, obviously a very disappointing result. We've seen Celtic, not pick up any points in the road in the league this season, and our form at home so far has been very good in the league, and of course in the one League Cup game that we've already played. I think our aggregate score in the league is 15-0 at this moment in time. Something that's caused a bit of controversy yesterday. Again, just past Raith is Dundee United putting out a statement saying that they are not, again, like other teams that have visited Celtic Park this season, getting an allocation for Sunday. Celtic's SLO, JP Taylor, confirmed today that was due to the red zone, which is still in place in the main stand, and that for visually impaired supporters, the section where the typical away fans would usually go is the only section of the ground that can be used. Do you think there's a way around this for the club, or do the club just need to accommodate our own season ticket holders first and foremost?
Well, you definitely need to accommodate the season ticket holders. Because of the red zone, obviously, it limits numbers. So I'm not sure you'd get any more than a couple of hundred away fans in. So I'm not sure it's entirely worth it. Beyond that, we're talking about league games here. You're probably talking about European games as well. I think the red zone might even be bigger for European games. But when it comes to teams like Raith Rovers, that's a ticketed game that we're definitely not going to sell out. So I think you could probably give a part of the ground to Raith Rovers fans, and then, when the Scottish Cup comes around in January and February, if you've got home games, you can give tickets to away fans then. But when it comes to European games and league games, you've sold out your season tickets. So until the red zone goes, there's not a lot we can do. Our hands are tied. And when it comes to European games, we're probably going to sell out every single game anyway. And, with foreign travel being a bit difficult, it's probably not worth giving away fans tickets for European matches just quite yet.
Lawrence, what's your take on this? Again, to add into that, it may be the case that Celtic can't accommodate away fans, but at this point in time, I think Dundee United aren't even gating a stream back to. I think they're trying at this moment in time to get a stream back to the stadium, but it's not there as a pay-per-view event. I think that's probably the least that the club could try and do, since away fans obviously can't get into Celtic Park at this moment in time, and it's not on television.
Listen, I think the game loses something without away fans at it. I think Tynecastle, the team loses something when we went there with no fans. Same when we went over to the south side of the city to face the new club with no fans there. It definitely loses something. There's ways that it could be done. They could definitely get away fans in if they wanted, but it's their choice. What they're saying is, because we've sold the season books, if we let away fans in, some season ticket holders don't get in. That's the dilemma they face, which I guess people would probably have been aware of. We're all aware of COVID. Was a possibility when you're buying a season book, you might not get all the games, and it's up to Celtic how they manage that. And they've decided, well, no away fans. And for me, the matches are somewhat diminished when there's no away fans there. So yeah, I mean, they should definitely be able to arrange to get streamed through. You would think, And if Dundee United can't get off Celtic, I'm sure there's a guy on Facebook selling it. But yeah, I think football definitely loses something. I think Tynecastle lost something going there. I lost something going to the south side of the city without fans there. So, I think probably they should come up with a way of getting away fans in the ground. And how they would do that, some season book holders are going to be disadvantaged. How they would pick that, I don't know. So maybe they've just went with the easy option, go, well, it's only kind of the away fans that will complain. Because in the league rules, it does say a reasonable number of tickets will be given to the opposition. And obviously we've decided reasonable is 0.
Yeah. At this moment in time, and I think I totally agree that probably the game does lose something from it. The atmosphere created on Sunday with the Celtic fans was very good. The fans certainly turned up on Sunday. It's a pity the players didn't. A game like Sunday, Patrick, when you lose a game, is always hard to take, and when it's it's in the league and it's 3 and a bounce away from home that we've lost, it starts to shine on the deficiencies still at the club. And Michael has come in the comments to say he finds it hard to criticise Ange when he hasn't been able to bring in his own staff. Even Martindale said it. Has that been something, we still know that John Kennedy and Gavin Strachan are still part of the makeup of the backroom team at this moment in time, and obviously Stephen McManus came into that backroom team under John Kennedy. Has that been something that's concerned you up until now? Are you still sticking with the line? I think that majority of Celtic fans were that when Ange was questioned on this, that he said that he would decide whether or not they were suited to him.
Yeah, I think it was probably the middle of June when I think the paper started coming out with the idea that it was a possibility that John Kennedy and Gavin Strachan would sort of be the 2 main first team coaches still, even with Ange's manager. And I think everyone was rightly quite concerned because, John Kennedy's been there for so long, you actually don't know how good a coach he is. You've seen that he's probably not the best manager through that 3-month spell that he had. And, the same with Gavin Strachan. There's no way of measuring this. I think if Gavin Strachan had a different name, I think he might be given the benefit of the doubt. But the fact that he's Gordon's son, and we know that Gordon Strachan has such a close relationship with Dermot Desmond, it feels like it's like the Pals Act and it's jobs for the boys. So you don't know the quality of these two. And they've had a disaster of a season last season with Neil Lennon as their manager. Ange is apparently fine with keeping them, which, Ange is definitely his own man. He won't have anything foisted upon him. So in that respect, I'm not too fussed. When it comes to the away form, it's 15-0 at home, but 4-1 away. If you add up the aggregate scores, There's no complaints with the home form really, but you've got to start looking at the away form and thinking, what is going wrong here? Because we've not kept a clean sheet. We've not even got a draw. We've lost 3 out of 3. I don't know what the answer is personally, but I'm not paid millions to find that answer. So I think this needs to. I think Pittodrie. I know we're jumping ahead weeks here, but I think Pittodrie in 2 weeks is a massive game. But you need to focus on Raith Rovers. You need to just sort of get the team ready and hope for another clean sheet and another victory and into the semi-finals.
Yeah, it probably is one game at a time at this moment in time. With so many games coming so thick and fast before the next international break in October. Lawrence, to go over to that, how do you think Celtic rectify this problem just now? At Tynecastle, I think we'd all agree we got the sucker punch. We didn't play terribly bad. Definitely when Haring came on in the game, that was the time that changed it. And, I thought it was something that Ange Postecoglou would learn for. We were threadbare at that point in time as well in terms of the squad. Kyogo came on to make his debut. Starfelt obviously started the match. Many people say the game at Ibrox came too soon for the team, especially playing 2 of the players that we knew were going to depart only a couple of days later. But in terms of going to the spaghetti ad on Sunday there, what lessons would you say were learned from the 2 games previous, and what can you take from this game to go into the next game, which is the next game, that being away from home, not the Raith Rovers game at Pittodrie, that's going to be so tough?
I think we definitely need to be better at mixing things up when plan A doesn't work. But we were somewhat unlucky in the Hearts game. I thought another 2 games, threadbare squad that doesn't help us. But it's certainly in Angie's range. You don't want to be judging them yet. Going back to the point of Strachan and Kennedy, I think he was happy to keep them so as he could have a look at them, and then if he thinks they're good enough, yeah, they've got a future if they don't move out. But one of the things he did touch on him during the transfer window was he felt he needed more guys in the sports science department. But that would kind of wait until once the transfer window had closed. It's closed, and worryingly, I've not heard of any additions to that area of Celtic, and it's something that the manager's on record as saying, there's a weakness, there's something I need to get the team performing better. So obviously Dom's left, so I don't know, was that a change that was maybe agreed with Dom and now it's a wee bit up in the air? It's hard to know what's going on, but the manager's on record saying that's a weakness that we have. So it'd be interesting to see if it's something we're going to address. When Dom was at the club, you saw the recruiting going on in the social media department was pretty heavy. Seems to have stopped. I've not seen many ads or much activity in that since Dom's left. So it's a bit of mystery what's going on. Is the restructure stopped? Is it going ahead? I know Gordon's maybe 6 weeks through his consultancy role. Are we waiting to the end of the consultancy role to make any changes? It's just kind of, it's a bit strange what's happening just now. Ange seems to, have a definite way of playing and way he wants to do things. Has he been backed by the board? He's brought in a fair number of players, but I think we'd all agree we're probably 3 or 4 short of where we want to be in terms of squad size. Sports science, well, he's identified that. I've not heard anyone coming in that side. And his backroom staff, well, he said he would have a look at them and judge them. So who knows if he's asked for somebody else to join yet or not, or if his process of judging is over. But going back to on the road, it's worrying away from home. It's kind of 2-1, 1-0, 1-0. It's fine margins, but we need to find a way of overcoming these. Listen, not everything was brilliant under Brendan, but there was a lot of kind of 1-0s away from home. We were scraping the 3 points, but he found a way to get his teams winning, and I think that's something Ange needs to do. He needs to find a way to get his teams winning on the road.
Yeah, Jungle Line came in the comments to say if you want to win the league, you've got to win at least 10 games away from home. Patrick, with the free-flowing style that Celtic play at times, and I don't think there's going to probably be a lot of clean sheets in the road this season. We knew what we were getting in terms of the manager's coming. He likes to play attacking football, and it was kind of the opposition score 3, we score 4. Probably not going to see a lot of those typical 1-0 games that maybe Lawrence is talking about. Do you think there will possibly be a change in his approach from now on? That, in terms of games like that you just go and you try and get, an early goal, or try and nick it late on, and then just maybe sit in and try and grind it out a wee bit?
Yeah, I mean, you've seen in the 3 away defeats domestically that we've not played the same as we have at home. The performances have been significantly poorer, personally, I think. With Hearts, I don't think we're up and running yet. I don't think we'd actually won a competitive game under Vange yet. Ibrox, I think we decided to set up differently. That's the way it looked to me. We set up more defensively. There didn't seem to be a lot of options going forward anyway. And then with Livingston, I only caught the second half, but we seemed to have a lot more control. We were getting into the final third, and we just couldn't break down their 10, 11 men behind the ball. And, we do that no bother at home, having 10 or 11 men behind the ball and breaking down teams and scoring 5 or 6, But away, it just doesn't seem to work, and I'm not sure why that is. I don't think you can play differently away as you do at home, because then you're effectively playing 2 different styles, 2 different formations, and the players aren't daft, but it would confuse them. It would confuse anyone having 2 different styles of play. So I don't think that's an option, but I think something needs to change. I think if you get an early goal in your next away game and try and hold on to it, I really don't know what the answer is, but something does have to change.
But would something possibly be, if you look at midfield, in terms of just now, obviously we kind of play with that 6, 8 and 10, maybe looking at 2 controllers rather than trying to always use creative players in there? Would you maybe say that's possibly an option to try and do? I mean, I know on Sunday people probably looked at the subs coming on and they're beat on, I know, and Ismaila Soro, but there are 2 players that could probably play that role. And would that be something? Obviously, James McCarthy, who from reports yesterday isn't up to speed. Don't know how true or not true that is, but in terms of holding midfielders, we do have a lot of them, and as well as that, we've also not mentioned Liam Shaw, who seems to have just completely disappeared off the radar.
Yeah, I think as soon as McGregor comes back, you need to play him.
What about the more forward role for Callum McGregor instead of the 6?
Well, if you're going away from home and you're playing those 2 pivots, like, we've done it religiously under, I think, both Brendan and Lennon. Yep. And, we're playing
Brendan brought Chaman to do it beside Brown a lot of the time.
Yeah. And I think people are becoming quite frustrated because you're playing Alloa at home in the League Cup and Raith Rovers at home in the League Cup, and you're playing with a back 4 and 2 defensive pivots. Was there a need for that? Under Vange, as Lawrence says, we seem to be playing 4-3-3 a lot more. But away from home, I think if you have a back 4 and then maybe a player like McCarthy with McGregor next to him, and then you sort of rely on your forward 4 players to attack a lot more and try and hit people in the break, maybe that could be a way that we go, just to get the first away win, even not even sticking to that. I'm not very impressed with either, any of the 3 defensive midfielders we've got. Beaton just sort of insists on fouling people every time he plays for Celtic. He also can't defend, which is pretty incredible. God knows what he's like in training. He must have dirt and just he must have dirt on every single staff member. I agree with you. I thought Shaw was one of the standouts in early pre-season. Obviously, not all first team players were back, so and it's very early in the season, so it's hard to judge. But I thought Shaw was a standout. Not sure why he hasn't been given more time. McCarthy is allegedly unfit. He certainly can't. He can't play to his level for 90 minutes, evidently. And then I think Soro's become really, really erratic. His touches, he's given away daft fouls. His passing can be poor at times. I thought he had a disaster at Tynecastle last month. It's quite odd what's happened to Ismaila Soro, really. So when it comes to defensive pairing, I think you're probably looking at McCarthy and McGregor, and then maybe Turnbull in front of them. But we just have to win games. Get your good performances in at home in front of Celtic fans and just win the game when it comes to away games.
Lawrence, what's your take on these kind of holding midfielders that we've got? I know when Ismaila Soro came on and Sunday played one really good ball into his feet and he turned, and it was actually a really good save from the goalkeeper. But obviously on Thursday we saw the other side of Ismaila Soro, in 7 minutes picking up a booking right away in a game that we know he just couldn't afford to do that, because after that he wouldn't have been able to put in the challenges that he would have to, and evidently we get punished from that. What's your take on Celtic's kind of would be described as number sixes or controlling midfielders at the moment?
Well, listen, we're playing Livy, a team that is even more in transition than us. And we're bottom of the league. Our holding midfielders, which should have been the least of our concern. It's really, Turnbull and Roger that was my biggest concern. That why weren't they creating for us?
But I think, see, if you look at the game and from what I've seen that we were doing, one of the balls that really impressed me was Vickers. He played the splitting ball through the defence and it split them open, and we did it twice and it worked. And every time when we're getting the ball out in the flank, we're just trying to chip the ball in. So I think even from what I've seen in the game, I don't know if you'd agree with me on this, but a lot of the time it was our own players taking a step out and then just trying to play the ball through the line of Livingston, because there were two. You just couldn't play balls into the box because the big number 6 for them dealt with everything in the air.
We weren't mixing it up enough. That's true, but you're not. Turnbull and Roger were expecting them to create for us. I don't think you can dispute they didn't create for us.
No,
against bottom league team who's in more transition than us. So, as for a number 6s, Beaton, it's been a while since he's played there. He's been at club a while, but I think he's a very definition of a squad player. Not, he's someone that when you start when you are so threadbare. Sorrow, he looked good when he broke in against Leon, but too many fouls he gives away too rashly. Then after 7 or 8 minutes, he was lucky not to get sent off in Europe. You had another tackle after that. That could easily been a red card, never mind a second yellow. So his game was gone after 7 or 8 minutes, and then you could have subbed him then and went, well, look, he's not going to be able to do what we need him to do. McGregor, I think he's wasted sitting deep. But then again, we let Robertson go out on loan, who I thought would maybe be ahead of Sorrow in choices of starting from him and what I've seen. He was a boy that hadn't let us down. But was it 6s that cost us against Livingston? I don't think so. I'm more worried about Turnbull and Roger not creating. Yeah, therefore, as you say, it's got out wide and the wingers are trying to throw in 6s dealing with it. So what are our two attacking midfielders doing? What are they creating for us? And I think Callum's better push further forward. Listen, Tom Rogic revitalised at the beginning of the season in a couple of the home games. But it's against kind of the lower half of the table. Same with Turnbull. He's looked good. He scored a hat-trick against the lower half of the table. It's kind of in the bigger games or the harder games away from home. What these guys producing when we need them to produce. And they don't seem to be doing it against better opposition. So is it because they don't have the ability to keep up that level against better opposition? For me, 6s, that wasn't why we lost at Livingston. But yeah, we've got a number that you'd say, well, James McCarthy could play that role once he's up to speed. And it maybe free is to put Callum further forward. The two of them are more interchangeable, aren't they? They can be more dynamic in the game then, because both can play, attacking and defensive midfield. And then you're looking at, who for your number 10 is going to be the big question. Who's going to be the creative guy for us?
Yeah, Patrick, if you look at the game in isolation on Sunday, I think it suited Livingston to obviously get that goal. It's David Turnbull, one of those creative midfielders that Lawrence is talking about, that loses the ball in midfield before it breaks down the left-hand side. And Shinnie obviously puts Livy up in the lead, and I think it really suited them to play the game in front of them. They could just pack in, and then a lot of the traffic that we were trying to get through that defence was we're trying to go too central. Anytime we get the ball into the flanks, it was the same thing. Something I read on Twitter this morning that I found quite interesting was that was a record number of crosses for an Ange Postecoglou team in recent years. Something like 38 crosses went into the box on Sunday. His record in one game at Yokohama being 35. So, maybe there is a plan B there, but it's just not something that's worked and that we can see happening. David Kelly said in the comments, in relation to the comment earlier on, 10 away games, that's if you win every single home game, which we won't. Are you worried about the way we've played at home? Because I know we huffed and puffed a bit about against Ross County, and obviously Vickers makes a breakthrough. But I think at home against St Mirren and Dundee, yeah, I know it's not great opposition. I know Hearts came back when we were coasting that game. But is there anything in the performances at home that you've seen that would concern you?
I'll be honest, not really, no. I think the Hearts scoreline was a bit of a deception. I thought we totally dominated that game. We could have scored about 8 goals that day. I don't even think they deserved their 2 goals. I thought, if the game ended 3-1, I think they'd have been quite lucky to get away with that. It ended up being 3-2, but no, I'm not that concerned with our home games. Obviously, we've not really played. I mean, Hearts are having a good start to the season, but we've not really played a top domestic league game yet. So, Dundee United have started the season pretty well, so that'll be a test on Sunday. Going back to the goal that we conceded, we're playing in front of Livingston for 25 minutes. Slack pass, and then slack.
I actually thought we started the game well on Sunday. I mean, usually when we go there, I think you're under the caution. I thought we were quite positive. I disagreed with what Postecoglou says in that.
Well, I mean, there you go. You're playing well. One slack pass. I think we're caught pretty short at the back. Actually, it was as if it was like man for man at the back.
Yeah,
the full back goes to the winger, and then Welsh is sort of on his own and not switched on for the goal scorer. You probably. I'm not sure what the stats are in seasons in which we've won the league, but 10. You probably need to win at least 10 away games, I would think. Probably you're looking at 12, 13, I would say. And then obviously most home games, but I think you're probably looking to win 16 or 17 home games at least.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned about the way we play at home, but you're not going to win a league title just winning games at home. Lawrence, have you seen anything in the performances at home that would concern you? Or are you quite happy with the way we play at home? I mean, 15-0 speaks for itself.
I think Ross County wasn't. They ended up with a comfortable win, but Hearts got a cracking save. We were struggling to get the goal, but once we got the goal, it seemed to open them up a bit more and maybe settle their nerves. So perhaps that was a least accomplished performance, shall we say, out of them. But as you say, we're scoring and not conceding, which you're just going to win games if you score and don't concede. So yeah, I mean, home looks better, but it's Celtic Park's a big pitch. It suits the style of football. It's a good playing surface. But, it's not like we didn't know Livy had an AstroTurf pitch. It's tighter and it's harder to play on. This wasn't like, we just found it out a week before. We need to find a way to do it on the road, to do it in smaller pitches that don't afford us as much room. And I guess that comes down, to the management team having a look at it and going, well, the wingers are going to struggle here because there's not as much room for them to play. They're going to put 11 men behind the ball. What's the plan? Is it just throw it in the box? Just get it wide and cross it in. All right, so who's our forward that's good in there?
At this moment, unless the new Greek boy can do it, we don't have a big target. I mean, as I said earlier on, crosses, it might be the plan B, but they weren't hitting anybody. As I said, the Livy number 6 is just controlled everything in there on Sunday.
So you've got to have a plan to. If you're throwing a cross in, you've got to be doing it with some kind of purpose that you've got to think, well, I've got somebody decent there that is going to deal with this or at least challenge and maybe get a second ball. So it's a bit frustrating. The Creek boy might be good, be interesting to see. But against a lot of the small teams in SPL, away from home as well as home, I think we should be playing 2 up front. Do we really need a defensive midfielder? I'd argue if McCarthy and McGregor get fit, you don't, because as we transition and through the game, they can drop into that position. Both of them are good enough to play like that. So yeah, I suppose it's but we're missing a lot of players, and when they come back, we'll look a bit better. Jamesy Forrest, he's going to be a huge miss for anyone. You get Colgan missing, with McGregor out. You have Julian out. You could see you're missing 4 or 5 first teamers there. So, but still Livingston bottom of the league, isn't it?
Yeah, it's still enough in the park, I think, Sunday to beat Livingston.
Aye, there should be, shouldn't there?
Plenty of
I know Lenny gets slaughtered for one of the results at Armlandale. So yeah, it's worrying if we're throwing 38 crosses and knowing we don't have anyone good in there.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Patrick, Brian's come in and said, just to touch on what Lawrence is saying there, and something that you said about Livingston, the whole game was in front of me, saying if we might fare better at grounds like Easter Road and Pittodrie due to the pitches being a bit bigger, and that teams will have, come and have a go at us. Would you agree with that? I mean, Hibs, obviously, it's usually one of the better games in the league because they will have a go at us. Do you think that will suit us a wee bit better? Or do you think that, that Achilles heel of Celtic, the defence, will get caught out in the counter-attack like it has done so many times?
Well, they've certainly got dangerous players. People like Martin Boyle. You just need to watch them all the time because they can pop up with a goal in a split second. When it comes to Easter Road, we've not won a league game there since I think February 2014. Certainly early 2014. I think Van Dijk scored that free kick the last time we won in the league at Easter Road. We've obviously won on the cup, Lenny's second game back when he was interim. But I wouldn't be confident just because it's a bigger pitch that we would get a result, get a win at Easter Road. And I'm not sure how far off an away game at Hibs is. When it comes to Aberdeen, we've got a phenomenal record at Pittodrie. I think we've only failed to win twice in the last 7 years or something. It's absolutely incredible. But you can't rely on these statistics because records are there to be broken. So I think you just need to try and set your team up to play as well as you can. I'd absolutely love a clean sheet at these two places. But, the bigger pitch definitely does suit us, but I don't think that guarantees you a win at all. No,
I don't think it does. I think even Pittodrie at times is probably a bit tighter in terms of the pitch size. Lawrence, do you think these type of games, the big games obviously, but we've failed so far away from home and what would be described as the two big games going to be to Tynecastle and Ibrox, do you think that with likely, the Celtic support behind the team and going to these places, Patrick's already touched on, great record at Pittodrie. We seem to do well there in recent years. And, a poor record at Easter Road. Do you think that, teams that might have a go against us will be more suited to how we want to play?
Definitely, there's got to be more space behind them, isn't there? If you're not playing in as congested an area, it should suit us. There should be easier for strikers to make runs, easier to thread balls through to them. Listen, we've got a hard 3 away games, haven't we? It's not too sure how many points we'll take for it, but Jared was on when we signed that and saying, listen, your first season, don't be expecting anything. It's the second season. And I think Dan said the same thing when he was on from Japan. And I think that's quickly been forgotten too, but you've got to win every game, Ange. And I don't know how realistic that's going to be. The next 3 away games in the league, I think we'd be lucky to win 2 from 3. That'll be us have lost 4 games in the league by then. I think last season we lost 5, but that's kind of where I see it sitting. I think the squad's down in numbers and down in quality from where it was last season. So, yeah, it's going to be a tough season, I think. I can't see us going away from home and blowing teams away. I don't know what's going to have to change, whether it's just getting our best 11 fit. Will definitely help to make a difference. Hopefully it's enough on the road, but we hadn't won away at Livy. We've still not won away at Livy in ages. We've just touched on Easter Road. Well, maybe records are there to be broken, but it's going to be a tough trip for us, isn't it?
Yeah, it will be a tough trip. There's players in that Hibs team like Martin Boyle that Patrick's already touched on. It's had a decent start to the season. Hibs have had a decent start to the season. Just realised in the comments, Kevin Graham, if you've possibly seen Twitter last night, his debut collection of poetry will be released very soon. It is called 7 Years of Henrik. It's going to include 50 poems on the King of Kings. Not too sure it was touched on yesterday, so a wee bit of positivity into the bulletin. Happy birthday to the King of Kings. Don't think he probably tunes into us. He's busy with the disaster that is unfolding at Barcelona at this moment in time. But happy birthday to Henrik. I think everybody as a Celtic fan would share that sentiment. Could probably do with a striker like him, but
Mate,
at
I
this
think he
moment
does
in time,
tune into this.
you think so?
Yeah, well, I mean, you think he doesn't. I think he does.
Well,
You never know.
if he does watch us, then
But
if he
what
does,
other
then
podcast would they choose?
well, I think he's trying to pick up Koeman's pieces now. So I think he's just a wee bit too busy. But I'm sure if he had a wee bit more spare time, he definitely want to tune in to listen to us talk nonsense. But anyway, to look forward, Raith Rovers Thursday. Don't know if a lot of people know this, but when Brendan Rodgers came to Celtic in 2016, John McGlynn, of course, brought in under Ronnie Dyler, was there in the scouting team, and Brendan transformed John McGlynn's position at Celtic Park to become one of the scouts who went to analyse and look at teams in European football, and were one of the guys that did the preps. So he certainly is one of Brendan's prodigies. Patrick, Raith Rovers, they're in a decent bit of form at this moment in time. It's a game that Celtic should be expected to win, but what type of game are you expecting? Obviously, Celtic come into it having not won in two. Is it just a case of picking ourselves back up off the floor and going again?
Well, if he's in the mould of Brendan, he probably won't sit in.
Not in the mould of Brendan, but he's certainly taken a lot that I think his team maybe play in the Championship with in that mould, but I don't think he'll maybe use those tactics when it comes to Celtic Park.
Well, if he tries to play at all openly, I think we'll just carve them open and score barrel loads. We should be doing that anyway. If we can do it with bottom of the Premiership teams, then we can certainly do it with mid to top of the Championship table teams. I think if we lose this game, or even if it goes to a replay of extra time, or if the performance is poor, I think you've got to start questioning the manager. I mean, I love Ange. I think he will be a brilliant manager for Celtic. You've seen how brilliant Celtic can be under him. But if you're playing brilliant, but you're not getting results, it's not going to work, is it? So I think it's a must-win game.
I've seen it happen before with managers. I mean,
Tommy
always
Burns
touches on Tommy Burns' team. Yep.
We played brilliant, but I think we get one trophy over 3 years or 4 years or something. So you've got to get the wins and you've got to get the trophies. I think we will win. I think it'll be fairly straightforward. But if the worst happens and we do fail to win, I think you need to start looking at what's going wrong here, because I don't think it can get any worse if we're going to win trophies and try and win back the league title.
It surely can't get worse. Things can only get better, as that famous saying goes.
DV.
Lawrence, yes.
Yeah, I remember when that came out.
We're not that old, so we can't. Look ahead to Thursday. Would you make many changes from the team that started on Sunday? Obviously, we don't know in terms of the injury updates whether Callum McGregor will be back fit, whether our new Greek striker, apologies for the pronunciation here, Giakoumakis might be available. Obviously, Scales featured on the bench on Sunday. Whether or not we could see him. Lawrence, how would you set up on Thursday night looking towards that game?
Well, the new Greek striker that you can't say in Banky, I can't spell.
I'll just stick with Georges. Georges.
Yeah, I would shove Georges up front, along with the Yeti. I'd played two up front against them. At left back, I want to see Monty come in, Bolingoli, and hopefully we see McGregor back. He's touched on it, but we could expect to see him. I'd be going two up top, get rid of the defensive mid, and Monty in at left back. I think.
So what formation would that be, Lawrence? 4-4-2?
Yes, I'll go 4-4-2, mate.
Right. I just don't think he's the type of guy that's going to change from this 4-3-3 that he obviously likes to use. And again, if you use your wingers properly in this, it's basically a forward three. But Patrick, how about yourself? What anything different from what Lawrence has said there?
I think you need to stop tinkering with the team. I think you need to start trying to get a settled team in. So I'd go with, Joe Hart, obviously. I'd play Bolingoli again because if he has a disaster against Raith Rovers, you need to have a conversation there. I'd probably go with Starfelt and Carter Vickers with
I think
Jovanovic.
that partnership needs to become settled, and whoever it's going to be needs to play a run of games, because we can't keep chopping and changing it. It was something that was an Achilles heel to his last season, wasn't it?
I was actually going to say, if Julian comes back the same player, I think it could be Carter Vickers and Julian
possibly.
in November time. But Carter Vickers and Starfelt with Jovanovic. If McGregor's back, it'll probably be McGregor, Roderick and Turnbull again with Abada. I'm not sure about the striker. I think he might stick with Ayeti and maybe bring Giacomakis on, because I don't think he's even played a minute, Giacomakis.
No.
And then...
And supposedly he's not a pre-season era, so I don't know how much in terms of,
Is that not a Celtic pre-season? Because apparently he did the full one in the Netherlands. So
it depends.
We're the only team that signed players that are unfit. It's kind of... other clubs sign players and they seem to be fit. I don't know. Do we just go, give us your unfit players because we knock them down in price for being unfit or something? I don't know. It just seems.
I find it strange as well, and he top goal scorer last season as well in Eredivisie, wasn't he? So I don't know how you come off of that, and we pray that it's not just a flash in the pan, that he does come in and obviously makes an impact for us. But I definitely agree there, Passy. I think that centre half pairing at the back needs to be nailed down to whatever it is.
Yeah, because you're hoping to keep 2 clean sheets against Raith Rovers and Dundee United, and then hopefully, Carter Vickers will have settled in by then, and hopefully Starfelt's get a bit more confidence going into Bayer Leverkusen in a week's time. And then I'd play Jota left wing as well.
Listen, Carter Vickers looks like he looks of the level we required, doesn't he? Carter Vickers.
He's a bit slow, but apart from that, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So you maybe going him, Kyogo, and Juranovic. I'm kind of going right. I think technically they're all good footballers. They look at the level. I think the rest of kind of jury's out on just now, whether it's fitness or just the level they can play at.
Yeah, I think though, Tony Ralston probably will feel a bit hard done by, and it's a sentence I didn't really think I would be saying a few months ago. But even he takes his goal well away from home on Thursday evening in Betis, and against Betis, and he doesn't, he's just kind of out the dark. I know Celtic's obviously brought in Juranovic for a substantial fee, but just both of you in agreement that at this point in time it needs to be Juranovic at right back over Ralston?
I think so, yeah. Listen, Tony's went up in everybody's estimations, and I think, if he plays, I'm not worried that, if it is Ralston that played for us before, you might have been going, not Ralston. I think I'd have no worries about him playing, but I think Juranovic is a better player, and I think, we need to get a bit more settled in defence of going, right, it's Hart plus the 4 in front of him. You need to get an understanding. You need to get playing as a unit. And I think the more games they get as a unit, hopefully the tighter we get, we stop losing silly goals. I mean, we've been beat with the odd goal 3 away games, haven't we? If we'd been a bit tighter at the back, instead of dropping 9, you've got +3. It's, 3 draws, just be tighten up at the back. So I think getting a settled back 4 or back 5, including Hart's going to play to that, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you're asking Patrick about the manager. Is it too early to judge? I think it's way too early, even if we get beat with Raith. Everything everyone's told us about this manager is like the first season's going to be a better off, right? But it's the long game you're playing here. He's going to give you an exciting style of attacking football. From the second season on, you win things. I'm not too sure what got lost in translation, or is it just now the reality's beginning to bite a bit because we've lost 3 league games on the road? It's, if we could guarantee, that we didn't win in this season, but then went on another winning 4 trebles in a row under Ange, playing kind of free flowing, never boring, free scoring Ange ball, I'm sure we would all accept that. Yeah. But, for me, it's just early doors to judge him. The squad's threadbare. It's clearly not his fault. He's identified with short and sports science. The club haven't done anything about that. He made noises about us having to get players in quicker. But, what we seem to follow our same model of bringing them in all at the last minute and not bringing in enough. And I think that's probably a reflection on having changed the manager but not the structure. We've still got the same way of doing business. We've still got the same board in charge. We had a new CEO in, that didn't work out. Now, I'm assuming it's not because he wanted to do things the same way as we'd always done them, which we appear to be doing. You know, if he'd been happy to do that, I think he'd probably still have been here. But I think we can all say, listen, we're needing change out with the footballing side. We're needing a structural change. We need a change to the way the board operates and the way we do business.
Yeah, and it will be very interesting to see how that structure plays out. Again, as you touched on there, Lawrence, the only real difference from last season to this is Ange Postecoglou instead of Neil Lennon. I think, just to wrap up, you know, the PLC results were put out today, and at the end of it, it says Celtic is in good hands. I think a lot of people would question whether that is by the people in the boardroom. I think it's certainly in good hands by the support who, you know, I think that testament of that loss being, you know, so low is testament to unwavering commitment from the support and everybody that's backed the club, whether that be in merchandise and season tickets and whatever else. So I think, you know, every Celtic fan should be, you know, proud of themselves and what they probably gave to the club over the past 18 months and more throughout this pandemic. And we just hope that once the game rolls round on Thursday, we get a victory and kick on from there. So to everybody in the comments, thanks for joining us. If you've enjoyed the chat, please give the video a thumbs up on YouTube. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. We've got plenty of good prizes coming out. But that's all I've got to say. Sorry, Lawrence.
I'll leave you with this. Dermot Desmond says it's Celtic's goal to improve in every department year on year. When was the last time the performance of this board improved?
That's a question we will leave the Tuesday show on. Thanks to everybody for joining us. Thanks to Patrick and Lawrence for joining myself on the Tuesday Club. We look forward to doing this more often, but thanks to everybody for joining us on A Celtic State of Mind.